We're in the offices of Newport Pacific Company with Paul Prentice.
Hi, my name is Paul Prentice, and I had the privilege of working for Far West Services from June, full-time, from June of 1957 through January of 1979. After the passing of Audrey, a group of us were at her funeral, and Bill Mack said he'd like to get some people together for an opportunity to have a remembrance about John and Audrey's passing. We began to reach out by email and phone, and over a period of about 5 weeks, we were able to put together a list of a few dozen, which expanded and exploded into approximately 250 to 300 people that had been contacted. And on June 14th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we assembled a group of people who were there to remember John and Audrey and to reminisce about their Far West Services days. It was at the Newport Beach Country Club in Corona Del Mar. That could be, it used to be Corona Del Mar, I don't know. It used to be the older Vine Terrace Country Club.
This remembrance ceremony, you said it took some form. Somebody had to, everyone wants to know this. I'm sorry, Paul, but you should tell everybody. Who was responsible for this event in a financial sense?
Oh, Bill McIntyre, totally and completely.
And we must say to people that this was a full bar, open bar, you do whatever you want event. It was not
we served beer and wine.
That's correct.
And a lot of food. Just a lot of people had a lot of fun coming together and seeing people that in some cases we hadn't talked to in over 30 years.
Now, John and Audrey McIntosh were the founders of the snack shop, correct?
Correct.
They founded that location, which is now Ruby's in Corona Del Mar, what, 1948?
It was actually October 19th of 1948 where John and Audrey signed a lease for the equipment on a building, and I had a copy of that lease there on the display table, but it got hidden under all the other stuff that we had.
Where did Bill McIntyre, was he just the family member?
Bill McIntyre was married to John's sister, and Bill Mack came into the company along about 1950, and John had, through a bunch of transactions, was asked if he would run a store in Santa Ana, and Bill then took over that store.
For people that don't know, Far West Services was a company that encompassed many different mastheads. The three major ones we can think of course, are Snack Shop, Coco's, and Reuben's.
That's correct.
In addition to
we had
many more. 17
logos. We did business as the Plank House, Reuben E. Lee, the Robert E. Lee, the Summer House,
the Gorda Lee,
Sweet Tibby Dunbar's, Isidore's. A lot of people remember Isidore's.
So, at any rate, this group, this dispirited group from all over, were drawn from all over the country, weren't they?
Actually, we had a lot of contact with people that are still in the East that would like to have been here, but we did have several people come from Texas, several from Oregon, Arizona, and of course Northern and Southern California.
Owing your livelihood to someone, especially John and Audrey McIntosh, they were a sort of a social icon of Southern California in many ways, along with some of the other great restaurateurs back in those days, many that other people would understand, like Carl Karcher.
Oh, absolutely.
And Art Salisbury, and let's say even Larry Cano.
Larry Cano. You could also throw in
the Delaney brothers.
Don Callender.
And Don Callender, of course.
From Marie. I mean, that all started in this area.
That's right. So, but Mr. McIntosh, Mr. and Mrs. McIntosh, Audrey and John, everybody should probably understand how the values of all this. They were together, and through the buyout by W.R. Grace in what year?
That was not actually. it took place like around 1970, but they allowed us to do our own thing until 1979.
Okay, and that was actually one of the bigger merger acquisitions buyouts that we've ever heard of $22 million back in the day. Was that right?
Yeah, well, it was 1,000 shares of Grace stock. And Grace stock at the time was selling for $25 a share.
Oh, so we're
But its
talking.
book value is really 50 if you go back and look at the print.
I
the
understand.
numbers.
Anyway, it was a pretty good deal for the Macintoshes, and
Well, but it was for everybody. I
of
mean,
course,
Bill had gotten sick. The company could have ended up being sold for taxes or whatever. But I think the thing that really is important to me are the values that they caused all of us to gain and to carry forward in our life even today. I've been with this company 1 year longer than I was with Far West, and I was at Far West 22 full-time years. But the principles, the values, these items up here on the board that we talk so eloquently about all the time, those came and originated at Far West. Only
okay.
when I joined the company, it was Snack Shops Inc.
We're going to be doing some interviews with some of the people that were at the event. There'll be pretty loud and noisy exchanges because of so many people being there.
Oh,
Did we get a final number as far as how many people actually showed up for the event?
It was somewhere between 240 and 250.
Well, it was busy and it was very
It was very busy.
very crowded.
There were a couple of people that did not pick up their name tags that were there, and then there were people that picked up their name tag right at the end. So
And one last thought: do we know we'll stop right there. We'll hold it right there, and then we'll be back with you after we have these dialogues with these other people, and we'll get back to finish this up.
super.
Okay, we're at the Far West Services reunion party, and with Gino Barrero, the man that was the. Well, you tell us what did you do for Far West Services?
Well,
Gino?
I started out as a trainee like everybody else did back in
What year?
1960,
Wow.
and we had one Rubens, no Reuben E. Lee, no Coco's, and 5 or 6 snack shops. I can't remember, maybe 7 snack shops, and that was the beginning. And then all of a sudden, things went in high gear. Rubens opened up. Couldn't believe nor imagine the amount of volume we did there. And then John had this great idea called the Reuben E. Lee. That really put us on the map.
Interesting. And you worked with Far West Services till what year? From 1960 till when?
Well, until Grace bought us out. Yeah.
So that was in 75 or 79?
76 is when they took over.
Right.
But I think we still Far West Services after that, but I'm not sure for how long. But I then became the vice president or president of the Japanese division, where I built Coco's in Japan.
No way.
Yeah,
I
I was
didn't. No
over there
one
for
knew
2
that.
years. Yeah.
No one knew that.
Yeah.
All
I
me
was over there
darn.
for 2 years.
That's
And very successful job. I loved it. I loved it. People took to us there.
Let me one last question. Did you became what was it? Vice President of Operations in what years?
You know what?
That's 72, 73?
About around there. Yeah. Yeah. John promoted me, which was nice. And I still have the letter someplace where he wrote it out. That he promoted me.
This event today is to honor the memory of John and Audrey McIntosh,
Right.
who both passed away.
Exactly.
They just both passed
Days
away.
apart.
How many days apart? You
Well,
remember?
I'm not sure exactly how many days, but not more than a week, I don't think.
Wow.
But Audrey was as much a part of this thing as John was.
Sure.
She was
Because it all started in what, 1948?
1948. Yeah, they were just 2 young married couple. Started right here in Colonel Del Mar at what do they call it now? Ruby's, right in the corner of Begonia and the Pacific Coast Highway.
That's right.
And John had an idea. and Audrey, of course, did too. Good food, good service, and value plus cleanliness. Yeah.
And when W.R. Grace bought him out
Yeah.
in whatever it was in '76, as you say,
Whatever,
where
yeah,
they took over, I think
76,
'71, when it was $22 million, wasn't it, Bob?
About that.
Which was a huge amount of money to
Come on.
I think one of the best,
Come on.
biggest.
Well, you know what? If you really take a look at us, Coco's or Rubens or Far West Services was in business before McDonald's.
Right. And what about Carl Karcher before?
Before
Carl?
Karcher. Carl Karcher was in the business, but not like he got.
And then what about the Pirates thing? What's his name? I'm trying to think of the famous one that had the place on Balboa Island.
Oh yeah, he was also a very close friend of John's.
Yeah.
They call that the Jolly Roger.
Jolly Roger. And
Yeah.
and who was that? Remember?
Yeah, gee whiz. I can't think of it right now.
Also was the big fish guy. What was his name? That was another friend of his too. Fran Delaney.
Fran Delaney was, well, he delivered fish to us. Yeah, he delivered fish to my father. We had a restaurant in Crown Del
Right,
Mar.
the Chef's Inn.
Yeah,
Wow.
before the Chef's Inn.
Before the Chef's Inn.
Yeah, it was called Jean's.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a bakery, delicatessen, bar, and restaurant.
Was that 1950 or something crazy?
Oh, it was 1947.
Unbelievable. Well, your name is what?
Doug Gammon.
Doug Gammon. That's so familiar to me. I mean,
That's all
didn't
the-
we work together? At
I think
Far
we
West
might have worked
Services?
together at Rubens and Tustin. As
Rubens and
I
Tustin.
recall, yes.
That's right.
And in the training school we met, I think.
I think so too. Hey, unbelievable. Why are we having this reunion?
Well, we're having the reunion, I think, to honor a couple of people and to get together. But with Audrey and with John passing away recently, I think I just love that Bill McIntyre did this for all of us.
Yeah.
What a gift, because I don't think I would have been talking to you until I started having time to Google people.
Exactly right.
And we needed to do that, but we haven't.
No, I know.
And so catching up with people like this is a result of some people who founded this thing. Moving on.
I have to ask you because I really don't know. When I left Far West Services, I went to down to San Juan Capistrano.
Oh, before Chanticleer?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because I went down there and I was the manager down there at El Adobe.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, with Ed and
See,
Al.
I'd moved back. I was trying to keep my head above water in my own restaurant.
Right. Well, that's why I want to kind of tie that in because Papa Gino got me the job. He had me meet Al Newman and his son Ed down there in San Juan Capistrano, and then I became a manager for them for about a year. So tell me, when did you leave Far West Services?
I left Far West. Before that, I left, don't even ask me the date. I went with a couple of the architects back to open my own restaurant as a partner with Sweat Equity back in Atlanta. And it's the year I got married, so I'm going to guess that it was about 35 years ago, because Kathy and I got married, had the wedding reception, as you know, at Rubens and Tustin.
Right.
Scanlon did the wedding cake, the guy who ran the bakery. Jeff
Right.
Clark did all the food.
Right.
Joey Gallo booked our entertainment.
Unbelievable.
And it was amazing. And that was 36 years ago. Kathy and I have been married 35 years.
So let's try to put a timeline on that. 30.
That's going to be really rough for me.
So it's let's say 74.
1974.
Really? So you left that early?
Yeah, well, because I had to open my own restaurant and learn that lesson early in life.
Wow.
But it was great. We had in fact, I borrowed some cooks from Rubens Tustin to help me open the restaurant, which was great.
Right.
And they flew back and lived in Atlanta, lived with us for about a month and got me open, and then headed back to Rubens. And we were successful for about a year, and then the recession in '75 hit. Our sponsor bank went under almost.
Right.
And we just couldn't expand, so we sold out to a partner and I had a job. I became VP of training for Host International. I got lucky on
That's
a flight.
right, I remember when you
Well,
went
I
to
talked to a guy on a plane flying home saying, oh boy, I'm worried about my job, my restaurant, and he said, I'll tell you what, you used to do training. I go, yeah. I kind of miss it, but I love operations. He goes, when you're in LA visiting your folks, spend an extra day and come over and see us.
I got one little vignette I gotta put into this tape for
Okay.
history.
I don't know if
It was
I trust
in
you.
72 or 3 when we worked together.
Yes.
And that was the year that I came into work one day and you had just been robbed.
Oh no.
Remember when you got robbed?
The first time, yeah. I remember all 3 times. I've been robbed.
Oh no. But so I always wanted to know whatever happened to that guy that
They did arrest him finally. He had robbed 17 restaurants. I got in trouble because Gino told me I should have made my weekend drop, and I hadn't. So I got in trouble for being robbed with a full safe. Remember that, Gino? You'll never forget it. You told me I'm lucky to have a job still.
That's right.
But you told me because my manager was so weak, you needed me to stay. Who was that manager? Oh, Ron Hickman. So you said, Doug, you need to stay and work with him just a little bit longer. And Ron, you saved my job.
So how are you?
He's interviewing me and I'm doing great. Is that your
All
big
right.
black car
That's
out
it.
there?
Oh God.
That's beautiful.
Okay, I'm with Jeff Winter, and Jeff was the one I knew. Jeff was a bartender at Isidore's in Newport Beach. So how did that all? I remember, to be honest with you, Jeff, I remember you were the bar back when you got started there, and all of a sudden you got made into a bartender, and I went, that's the best move that this company's ever made.
Started out as a doorman, started out as a customer, became a doorman, became a bar back and a cook. And the bar is the area that I liked. And so then
You were faster than Grease Lightning.
you had to be. There were so many people there that you just had to be.
So we worked with how many cocktail waitresses did you have in those days? Because that place was just booming with people.
It was an unbelievable.
Were there 7 or 8 or 10 waitresses?
I don't even remember.
Too many.
There was old Janet though. There was 2 Janets. And here's another guy who was there.
Yeah, that's right, Dan. Yeah,
It was a great time.
yeah, it was.
So once I try to tell people about it, it's hard to explain.
Jeff, pull up your fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, you can go over there and sit down next to him.
Next to
This is
Jeff,
a friendly deal. Come in and sit next to Jeffy. Jeffy, please. Now,
This is my dad.
this is Dan Courtney.
Yeah.
Dan Courtney, when did you start to work at Far West Services?
1923, I think it was.
Yeah.
Probably mid-70s,
That's right.
mid to late 70s. When did Isidore's close?
Closed in 1980.
So
You what?
And
probably,
it opened in December of 69 and it closed in
okay,
April
so
of
80, I'd say I probably
So
was
you were
for
there
3
after
years.
Grace took over and the McIntosh family is gone and everything is.
oh yeah, I was there when Grace was in there, yeah.
Yeah,
So, and then I went to different things,
that's right. And then what
There was the parade of Grace limousines going through the parking lot. Remember when they came and looked at it?
Yeah.
This whole black limousines going through the parking lot from Isidore's down to the boat.
And they didn't quite know what to do with that place since it was
they locked it up.
the only true
So did
nightclub.
Peter Grace come in there himself?
No, but I did remember there was some corporate guy.
There were a number of corporate guys. They had like 3 stretch limos.
That's
They
right.
were
Now, how long did you work at Far West Services, Dan?
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4
probably.
years?
The most.
And what did you do after you left there?
What did I do? I got into yachts. Started
Okay.
playing boats.
And what did you do? You got into real estate.
Yeah, I got into real estate, yeah. A little bit. I
Slumlord.
dabbled in a little bit, yeah. But there
You were the guy, Jeff Winter, I'll never forget, you were the guy in 1971 or 2 who said, I'm buying this house a couple of blocks away from the beach in Huntington Beach, and it's a tear down, and I'm paying an outrageous amount. How much was that? $23,000?
something like 12,000.
$12,000.
But my payment, the payment was $86 a month, and that was tough to
And it was
swing.
breaking you.
Yeah.
It was breaking you. And that was in 1970.
71, I think.
So anyway, what? It just goes to show you that some people have vision and other people are wearing bifocals. so how many houses did you finally wind up with?
Oh, I don't remember how many it was.
Slumlord.
It was quite a few.
The one he was going to tear down is still sitting there today.
I actually still have that house.
Is that right? Your first one?
600 square feet, 700.
Something like that. Yeah,
Right.
It's still there. You know?
And who was your favorite manager? Move in a little bit next to Dan. You got to lean in a little closer to Dan. Thank you.
My favorite manager. Well, we had so many managers there.
Okay, give me your top three.
My top
Quinn.
three. Yeah.
Fast Eddie.
I probably went through 25 managers the time I was
I
there.
remember that.
Well, probably my most favorite was probably you. Because we had so much fun.
There was Ratso.
Well, there was Dennis Bramnick and there's Steve McIntyre. There were so many men. I can't even remember all of them.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'll tell you what. This is an event, an amazing event to get everybody back together again for Far West Services. That it never had would ever happen without help from other people. And
it was a great company. It was a great company to work for. They had a phenomenal philosophy, the training and the family, the relationships that people built there.
It was awesome.
Again, here we are 30 years later and still have, the great family relationships. So,
well, listen, it's an honor to be with you guys again. And see, it's gonna. I guess we all got to get around and get around
you'll go see who's here.
and get to see who's here. Thanks a lot, you
Thank
guys.
you.
Hey, we're with Ben and Sherry Cagle.
We are.
Who I happened to meet in 1960 on the beach in Little Corona.
I was 12 probably.
I think you were 12 and a half.
12 and a half? Okay,
Yeah, that's
I'll
right.
take it.
And Ben stole my board and took it out there and made me look like dog do.
Sure.
You did a great job. You were a good surfer, man.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Anyway, when did you go to work for Far West Services and John and Audrey McIntosh?
42 years ago today.
42 years ago today?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Wow. And what
I'm a
did you
youngster
do for
compared to the
them?
rest
What did you do? What did he hire you for?
Well, manager trainee.
Okay, you were manager trainee,
Manager
right?
trainee for the company.
Now, when did you marry the beautiful Sherry?
1962. So we've been married.
Unreal.
We've been married.
I convinced you that it was your good move to make a move.
You did, thanks to you.
You said, if I sit on this too long, it might go away. It was a good move. Congratulations to you both. It's awesome. Anyway, so you stayed 42 years, and that was when you started.
42 years, and I was there about 20, 25 years, something like that, and then
That's
retired for
amazing.
a while, and then just got out of that business because it's too tough.
Yeah,
It's a young guy's business, not an old dude's.
yeah. Well, yeah, but it's fun. Still fun, right? Well, listen. So what? This is. When did John and Audrey die this year? They died in August and April.
No, April, I think. I'm going to go over some of this. We're going to have a little program today. So
All
I'll
right,
go over some
all
of
right.
it.
Well, now you're going to be the MC for
I
the
am.
program tonight.
I am.
This is a one-off thing. This thing would never happen before. We wouldn't have this many people together. You know what's amazing? I'm going to just made a little editorial comment, and that is that these are all these people that are here today are all part of Southern California culture. Without these people, each person giving their input in creating the Far West Services, which was Snack Shop and Coco's and Rubens, Woo Bands, Gorda Lee, Baxter Street.
You're going to hear a lot more than that.
Huh?
You're going to hear a lot more than that in a few minutes. So.
Moonraker and so on, and all the Ruben E. Lees and all those kinds of things. Without that,
Alan Jones.
hey, we'll let you go.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. How close were you with Gino Guerrero?
Gino Barrero and Hank Waterworth like brothers.
That's what I was going to say. Do you have Italian heritage?
Yeah.
I thought so.
I always say to Gino, we grew up together.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous
We spent a
stuff.
lot of time working side by side for many years.
Now, you went to work for Far West in what year?
1957.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then when did you leave
I
there?
left in 1980.
Really?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people that left in 1980. What was
That
the-
was a kind of a transition time when the Grace Company was kind of rooting in more, you know, and
Did John Mack himself leave?
And John had pretty much backed out, and Bill McIntyre was the president for a short time. Jim Gray was the president for a short time. And
Right.
they brought in Ed Wimmer, and then that's when things started to really separate. And,
Now, Jim Terra, he left and went up to Idaho, right?
Right, Jimmy Terra, yeah.
He left pretty early, didn't he?
He left shortly, probably before I did, or maybe shortly after.
How's he-
There was a lot of transition.
Have you seen or heard
I
from
think I heard he passed away.
Oh, God, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I heard that. I don't know firsthand. But
Right.
Yeah.
And what about all the girls that were down at Rubens Newport? Elsie and Alfreda
Yeah.
and
All the-
Marilyn.
All the
and-
girls. I now live in Central California.
Where do you live?
Central California, near San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
And I've been living there for since 1984,
Okay.
25 years. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I kind of lost touch with the locals.
Were you down here for John's
I
funeral?
no, not for the funeral, but we had about 3 years ago. We had his 79th, I think, one of his birthdays here
Right.
down in Newport, and we came down for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. Unbelievable that we can get all these people
I know,
together.
it's wonderful.
This is all part of Southern California heritage.
Yeah.
Actually, this is no one would believe it, but everybody that's here today has contributed greatly to the culture of our whole society.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And I was just walking in from the parking lot, and this lady walked up to me. She said, "Hi, Hank." I said, "Well, hi. How are you?" And she said, "You hired me."
That's right.
Way back.
Now, see, I'm going to just get this one out there because I tell you, see, you and Gino sandbagged me and sent me to San Diego. I was a happy guy up until that point. Anyway.
Well, we have a lot. I had somebody else just tell me I sent him to Isidore's.
Hey,
But he
God,
said he got there and he loved it.
God bless you guys. It was
Okay.
great seeing you, and we're going to keep this thing going.
All right, buddy.
Hey, Al Johnson, tell me the story. When did I first meet you?
Probably 1971, 72.
That's right, exactly right. And what were you doing then?
I was working at the Golden Pheasant Restaurant in Anaheim. And Gene Coda, who was the manager at the Whittier Rubens, okay, we went deer hunting together. And he said, with your talent, you should come work for Far West Services. Because I was an executive chef at that time.
That's right.
And I said, really? So he introduced me to Gino. And then Gino Barrero. And he says, you got to get in the management program and all that stuff. And I went through that whole thing. And then Gino came to me one day and said, we're going to be expanding. I said, really? He says, yep. And he says, I want you on the food service team. So I was with Ross Whitaker and Jimmy Stoltz and I can't remember some of the other guys, but we went around opening all the plank houses and Rubens and Moonrakers and Summer House.
Which you're having far too much fun, let me tell you.
Oh, way too much fun. Way too much fun.
That's the days when you had TDY, and that was pretty big money then.
This was amazing.
Yeah, you had the world by the tail and the downhill full, let me tell you. So when did you leave Far West Services?
I left Far West Services in 1985.
Wow, you even surpassed most of everybody.
Yeah, and then I went up to Cameron Park Country Club and became a general manager of a country club and done that for 29 years and retired last April.
Well, congratulations, guy. You're the best. You always can walk between the raindrops better than anybody that I ever met in this whole company. No, I'm serious. I have never seen a guy that had so many good diplomatic skills along with your other skills. You were on the job and always had it together, and it was fun. Hey, it's really good to see you, man. Really good to see you. Good seeing you. You were at Isidore's with me? No.
I was at Lubin's before. It was at
Rubens,
Then
that's
I was,
right.
Then I was at Newport. Then I was at Tustin.
Did you work with Dick Aarons?
No. When I started at Rubens Newport, ended up at San Diego Newport, or San Diego Boat.
You run the San Diego boat. Did you work for Les Webster?
Yep. I worked for him when he was at Newport.
So you knew that when I was there, I was down in San Diego on the the regular restaurant.
Right. Right.
And what was it, Jerry Spence, or what was his name?
You're right, Jerry. I think it was Jerry Spence. Whatever happened to him?
I don't know that.
He was a funny guy.
He was a funny guy. I bet he's successful wherever he's doing. He had that.
Ruben Elite's still down there.
I know.
But
I
it's
heard
empty.
that. That's right. He was the manager of the boat then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's too much. What brought you? Who got you to go to San Diego?
United States Navy.
Oh, is that right?
So I was filling in down there for extra money because they don't pay very much in the Navy. So,
Right. Yeah.
you know, but I was
So
across the bay in Coronado.
So when did you start with Far West Services?
65.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. You were around.
Yeah.
And then, so you were manager. What happened?
Yeah, stayed at the bar most of
You
the
were
time.
you were the bartender the entire time.
Yeah, well, busboy initially, but you know.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
worked
And
into
then,
the bar.
but anyway, then when did you leave?
Probably not until 76, probably. 76, and I went to the VI.
That's right.
I was at the VI for 2 or 3 years.
That's
I was
right.
a resident babysitter down there. So.
That's right. Didn't we cross paths at the Brass Beacon?
Multiple times, yes.
Hey, I'm telling you, yeah, that's right. We were all over the place. I think you are probably the only guy that ever remembered what Uncle Hubert's Royal Caboose. Remember that restaurant?
Vaguely.
On the peninsula?
Oh, that's right. I was down there a couple times.
Yeah.
But Jeff Winter and the gang used to come down to the VI on Sunday afternoon. You know,
Right. Yeah, that's right.
for last call.
Yeah,
They're always
yeah.
open till 2.
John
Nobody was there.
Longdelius. Remember John Longdelius, the manager of the Brass Beacon?
Right?
Yeah. Boy, small world, huh?
It is.
It's unbelievable.
It has been so many years.
Hey, is this an amazing thing, though? We're all part of American history. Steve McIntosh, the
McIntyre.
McIntyre.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
And your dad's name was Bill.
Bill still is.
Isn't that amazing? Is he here today?
He's putting on the party.
Isn't that something? I'm glad to hear
And he
it.
is here, yes.
This is I'll tell you something. This is probably one of the most remarkable things that's ever been done.
Thank you.
And it's so special. We were talking about it, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. One of the things that John and Bill, that means John McIntosh and Bill McIntyre, made happen for California, Southern California, probably the whole world, is the fact that he hired people that were individuals. He really liked people who were different. That was the first thing. And second of all, he really enjoyed creating things. And as a result, that's all has happened. Now, when did you I know you started as a small boy in the business.
I'm 12 years old.
I was going to remember that. I remember that you were
12 years old, I was washing dishes at number 2.
That's right. Exactly right. And then, and what year was that?
12 years old, I guess I would have been 59.
1959. Wow. And then maybe you can bring into this discussion something that we broached on earlier, but hasn't really talked about. Remember the Jolly Roger?
I do.
Okay. And the man that was the owner of the Jolly Roger
I know him.
was who?
Oh gosh, now you're going to ask me. And it was my uncle's next door neighbor up in Alaska.
Right. Okay, let's go Fran Delaney. You knew Fran Delaney as well? From Delaney's?
I knew the Delaney. I didn't really know him. I can't say that I did. I know the other guy. No, I can't. I think
It starts with a B, maybe? No? I can't think
I
of
can
it.
get it at some point.
Anyway, bottom line is to this story is that all of the restaurateurs around Orange County and throughout Southern California pretty well knew each other.
Yes, they did.
And they were very good pals and hung out together.
Yes.
Now you got to do something that not many of the kids or people that are here today got to do. You got to go up to John McIntosh's cabin in Hunting Lodge. Didn't you get to do that?
Once, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, once is better than not at all, right?
It was a great time.
And can you tell us about that?
Well, Uncle Jack would always have groups come up, and he'd put us all together, and he'd take us out. We'd fish for salmon and halibut, and have a great catamaran yacht that he'd take us out on. And he'd take us out. We'd do lobster. We'd also put out for lobster and crab and anything else that he could buy. I mean, he was the consummate fisherman. I'm not. But boy, he loved you catching a fish. I mean, he would get as excited as anybody. If you caught a fish, that made his day.
Now let me ask this. This is a poignant moment because we're all pulled together today because of the fact that the passing of Audrey and of John McIntosh. And can you tell us how that happened, how they passed away this year? No one's got the information. I mean,
Audrey had a bad heart. She passed away on a Wednesday.
April sometime?
I'm sorry?
Was it in April?
Let's see here. Might have been April, might have been May, I think, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And then 9 days later, the day before Audrey's funeral service, my uncle passed away in the middle of the night. Upstage during the whole thing.
Unbelievable.
No, I mean, so they went together, and
you couldn't write a script, a Hollywood script like that.
They were a pair. They were always a pair. I always thought of them together. I never. For me, they're my aunt and uncle. The only aunt and uncle I ever had.
Well, here's something from someone that only you spent. When did you finally leave Far West Services?
1980.
1980. When the big ta-da changed over to W.R. Grayson, there was only Al Johnson was left. Anyway, having said all that,
there was more than that left.
Oh, I remember very vividly. A lot more. But anyway, I was going to say though that 1980 seemed to be the pivotal moment when everybody started. Didn't you start your own business? Start your own restaurant?
I started my own video business.
Did you?
I started video cassettes at that time were about 3% of the country had them.
Right.
I decided that rather than be a supervisor for restaurants, I'd rather go and work for myself, and I did. Did that for 10 years. And then it started
here's what I was going to say about all of it, and I just have to tell you something. There was never a person in that company, and when I say that company, obviously it's a pretty big thing, and it was only from a little baby's point of view, my point of view. But I got to tell you something. You were the nicest person at Far West Services. I can't think of anybody that treated people nicer than you did. That was consistently caring. That if people ask you to do something, you do it for them. I mean, let me just say this. A lot of people say that no good thing goes unpunished, but we will tell you something. You are well remembered by everybody that's in this room today, I'll bet you. And everybody knows that you're the greatest guy, and we really appreciate your kindness to us, because we were just little pebbles in a big sandy beach.
Well, thank you for hiring my wife. Introduced me to my wife to be, and
I had an eye.
You had an eye. The only thing is, you forgot to tell everybody that she had a wedding to go to the first weekend she was scheduled, and you didn't schedule somebody else in. The first thing I did before I ever met her was I called her and fired her over the phone. Talking to her mother, while she was off at some wedding, and that was my first introduction.
It was meant to be. How long have you guys been married now?
35 years.
35 years. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Hey, thanks so much, Steve.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Jeff Clark, you ran all of the hors d'oeuvres, gully lumpers, everything else. That's what Deb Evans says. Now tell us more about what you did for Far West Services.
Well, in those old days, when Don was ready to retire, we needed somebody to work on the recipes for the Cocos, the Reuben E. Lee, for the White House, Rubens, and I guess I was the one elected. I always remember his last words to me when we started out on that little venture was, "Don't screw it up."
So let me tell you something. You were consistently great. You consistently worked hard. You and who was the other guy that worked with you? Al Johnson?
Al Johnson, yeah. Then we had Ross Whitaker. Remember Ross?
I was going to say Ross Whitaker. What happened to Ross Whitaker?
That's a very good question.
Yeah. So Doug Gammon wants to know about these Gully Rumper hors d'oeuvres.
We had a lot of winners in that category.
I think we had one big winner.
There were a couple of slow movers like lamb meatballs in a curry sauce that came from number 13, but we continued to serve them just to get rid of the lamb trim out of the
You were very, John McIntosh liked you a lot. I mean, he was one of there's certain guys in the company that you just knew that people liked. And you were one of those likable guys. And John McIntosh liked you, Gino liked you, everybody liked you.
Yeah, we all got along rather well, but I'll have to tell you, the whole experience of Far West, John McIntosh was then and still is my mentor. I mean, the things that he taught us in those days have stayed with me for
That's right.
40 years.
When did you start to work with the company?
I haven't seen it yet.
When did you go to work for Far West?
1966.
Wow. Wow.
Scottsdale with Barney Hoffman.
That's right. And when did you, Bernie Hoffman? Oh, that's a blast from the past.
Barney, yeah.
And then what happened? When did you leave?
1980. That's when we
That
all
was the
left.
year, yeah, except for Al. Al stuck around.
Yeah, a few stuck it out, but it became a big corporate entity at that point in time.
Yeah.
John always taught us that it was all about the
We were just talking about this, and everybody is absolutely 100% of the people that we've interviewed and talked to so far today all agree on one thing. Everybody that was with Far West Services was an individual. There wasn't one person that was like the other one. There were no cookie cutter guys there. Everybody was an individual, and it was really an exciting
we all
time.
worked hard. I mean, and that was part of.
But
you
we
were
were all,
expected to do it, but you wanted to do it.
but you were it's mutual respect. There was a lot of mutual respect for the hard work that did. Like this guy, when I worked with him at 17, he led by example.
Exactly.
No, I'm not joking. He led by example. He was the one that said, "Look, Ron, this is an electric pencil sharpener. Why would we do it any other way?"
Yeah, very true.
That will tell you something. Just the thought.
But you were still trying to crank it.
I was still trying to.
Oh, you don't crank an electric pencil sharpener?
Only when the electricity's on.
I don't get it. Hey, you know what I did do? I bought the first calculator Craig put out with my bonus. Remember that?
I know.
It was huge. You made fun of me.
I know.
We were still using the slide rule.
No, I know.
That doesn't.
No, Galen was right on. Anyway, listen, Jeff. So when you left in 1980, where'd you go? What'd you do?
I went with Jerry Johnson and Jim Stoltz. We opened up 5 restaurants in Orange County.
What was the name of that chain?
We had an O'Keefe, Leone and Yee. We had the Leone's.
Really?
We had Broccoli's Rosemary.
Yeah.
And we ran that for a few years. But you got to remember, Prime was at 22%.
Yeah.
It was a good Jimmy Carter days.
Yeah.
We held on as long as we could, but after that I went to Montreal.
Wow.
Worked on This Is Not Chicken.
That's when it was good. No wonder it was good then.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, what was the name of the guy that took over the steakhouse over there? Jim
Carroll.
Jim Carroll. Yeah, I worked with Jim Carroll.
Followed me around for another 12 or 14 years. He worked for me when I was president of Burt Reynolds restaurant chain in Florida.
I know he was that other. What's that other chain? I'm trying to think of the other chain he went to work for. Jim Carroll went to work for.
He went to work for a lot of them.
Yeah, he did. I know.
Yeah, but he was at Banditry with us for 4 or 5 years down in Jupiter, Florida. But I think he's upstairs now. From what I
Really?
hear.
Wow. Well, listen, I got to tell you, this has been an exciting thing already today, and you are just a very important.
Show the shoes in the video.
No, I can't
He has
do
the
that.
coolest shoes, and
I know,
put your
I know.
foot up. Here, I'll help you.
Oh, that's all I need is gammon, drinking white wine.
All right, let me see.
They're adjustable because of my age.
Oh my God!
Look at that shoe.
Oh
He
my
has the
God.
coolest shoes in the
Patagonia socks or
in the
whatever.
entire reunion.
That's what happens when you get to be this old.
Nobody's got Patagonia socks. I'm telling you.
They're good for life.
They're good for life.
If you wear them out, you take them back and they give you another pair.
Wait, they're good for life? They're good for life, so I'd say that's about another 3-4 years for both of us.
I hope so. I'm hoping one more pair of socks.
This is such an honor to see you. Number one, I haven't seen you in years.
Don't give me that shit.
It's true though. Anyway, the most important thing that I got to say is that you really. How did you meet John McIntosh?
I'll tell you. Are you on camera? No, I didn't know that. I met John in the first combo in Costa Mesa, Adams and Harbor.
Harbor and Adams, yeah.
I was working for the Dorman Company, and I was selling bulbs into the chandelier. John and Bill came by, and I was introduced to them. And then a few months later, the phone rang, and John was on the phone and said, "You know what? Our company is growing, expanding. We need some fresh blood. Would you come and work for us? Come and interview." Well, the luncheon interview was supposed to last about 30 minutes at the Wheelhouse in Ruben.
Sure.
Wound up to be about 3 hours. I said, sorry, my life, the whole thing. And they made me an offer, which I should have accepted on the spot, but it was cool. So I said, I need to think about it. And so I thought of it about 3 seconds, and following that, I called him and started working on January 2nd, 1969.
Wow.
And worked for John and Bill for about 2.5 years before I started my company. And since this is a memorial for John, I want to say a few words about John.
Wonderful.
John was my mentor, my friend, maybe the best friend I've ever had. He taught me things that I could not imagine. He's responsible for a lot of what's happened to me in my life, which has been quite good, knock on wood, as far as the way I live, what I do, the morals. I owe him a huge debt, and I'm really sorry to see him go. It was a very sad day in April when I was told that he's gone. He will forever live in my heart, in my mind, in my memories. The best mentor one could have. It was just a prince of a guy.
He passed away on April 4th, and you know, it's amazing how one person can make such a major difference in so many people's lives, and he really did bring to the party a lot, as you said. He brought so much to the party, but he hired individuals. Each person that's in this room today is an individual. There's not one cookie cutter like any other. It's amazing how he was able to do that.
He paid attention to people, and it was not a casual acquaintance. If you got close to him, which was not that easy,
right?
You saw just a beautiful person, and I was privileged, and I really mean it, very, very sincerely, to have met him, to be able to exchange and spend time with him. I spent time in Alaska. I look forward every year. One year I missed it, and I was upset, physically upset, because it was just part of your life, part of the routine. Sure. Fishing up in Sacramento River, American River, going to Cabo. In fact, he's responsible for me being in Cabo. Well, not only was he responsible for me starting my own company when the company was sold to Grace, which changed my lifestyle. The place in Cabo we were visiting, Sheila and I, he said, why don't you go, you should get a place here. I said, you must be crazy, I don't need a place to live. It's the best thing I've ever done. We built a house, family used it a lot. Everything spun around things that started with John. And that he was responsible for.
But you brought a lot. You brought so much to the party along with it. He was a results-oriented man, and he really enjoyed people that would bring something to the party. And you know, there's no, you gal, honestly, it's lovely that you're being humble. But if you hadn't produced year in, year out, you wouldn't have been around either.
Well, John told me when I came to him and I said that I chose not to continue my career with Grace, he said, well, you start your own, and Ray Martin and I started the company. And I asked him, I said, John, I can only start it if you tell me that we'll have the business, because we don't have a lot of money. He said, you have my business as long as you perform. The moment you don't perform, you're out. I said, that's a fair deal, and we'll do the best we can. And some 30 years later, with hundreds of restaurants that we've done, we just kept on performing. If we didn't perform, he'd call me and rake me over the coals. One time, somebody spec'd a chair that was too expensive in his mind. He called me and said, God damn it, you're never going to sell me another piece of equipment ever again. What do you mean $50 for a chair or something? So I said, John, I said, I'm not listening, I'm not doing business anymore. Slammed the door down, the phone. I got in the car, I drove there, came to see him. He was busy. I said, I'm not leaving until you see me. Through the secretary. And finally he took me in, we talked about it, and we reasoned it, we explained who expected and why and so on. But if you didn't perform, you're out.
That's right. That's right.
And that's the right way to be, rather than pussyfoot around things.
Exactly.
And that's another quality of his, that you knew where he stood all the time.
That's right.
Talking about humble, he was the most humble guy I ever
I know that. I know that.
I always felt that he wasn't maybe good enough, or he was a lot better than most people that you come across and most people that he came across. It's fun. Good memories that I have about him, but it's still.
But it changed everybody's life. You know, your story is unique because it's the level that it is. Like, believe it or not, even the smallest, the lowest guy on the totem pole, whether it's a dishwasher or a waitress or a bartender or even an assistant manager, he made an incredible difference in everybody's life.
And beyond that, he made a difference and was important to people far higher in the hierarchy of things in terms of position or money. He didn't feel that he was good enough, but he was a lot better than they are, and they all recognized it.
And he set standards, and that's the most important part of the whole process.
Another good thing he did, he taught me how to fish. I wasn't much of a fisherman, but he invited me to come out to the river, and then it became traditional that we kept on going again and again. While it doesn't seem that important, it's another thing that occupies a lot of my time right now. I fish quite a lot in Cabo, all because of John. So when I start thinking about it, a lot of things happen with or because of John. And that's what makes it so
as you know, we also like substance and real and honest and truth. And all of those things are what you were bringing to the party, and that's so important.
He always made me feel good. He asked me about my golf, which sucks. And so I said, it's impossible. He said, what's your handicap? And I tell him it's a high handicap. And he said, not possible. You're much better than this. Just encouraged you to do things. And then when you played with him, he'd coach you a little bit in a nice, subtle way, not ridiculing you, not insisting. Every level, as I said before, it's just woven through the greatness of the man.
And that's a teaching thing that just comes from within.
And it's something that I know I will miss, and it's unfortunate that he's gone. It's just too soon. I wish I had him as a friend for the next 50 years. Be realistic, another 20 years.
Anyway, listen, Yigal, I got to tell you something. Thank you so much for being here in his honor. I mean, I know that,
you could not put a barrier big enough for me not to be. So I thank Bill for putting the party together and the memorial. And nice to see old faces.
Yeah, absolutely. And give our best love to your wife and tell her how much you love her still.
I shall tell her.
All right. Thank you. Well, we're back with Paul Prentice again, and Paul, I guess people would want to know at the end of this wonderful event, who was the real John McIntosh? Who was he?
Oh, he struck terror in the hearts of some people, and I never knew anybody that didn't love him. However, there were people among us that absolutely froze in real life when he walked through the back door. I was a naive little prep cook in the back of number 3 one day when this guy came in and was upset about something. And I remember going home and asking my stepfather, Cookie, who he was, because he had this scar on the side of his mouth. Cookie said, "Oh, that's John." And I said, "Oh, so that's John." And then I had the privilege that same summer of watching Audrey dress down an assistant manager, Marine Corps style, because he was not watching the floor and the floor was not running well. And so we all learned to love and respect the things that they inspected.
One of the things that isn't talked about much, but it's pretty darn important, and that was the relationship that John McIntosh had with his purveyors, with G&G Produce, with Dorman Company, with a whole raft of different organizations that made the quality product that we were able to serve at Far West Services. Can you tell us how he dealt with those people?
Well, we never really, we as individuals, the relationship between the vendors was set up, by John on a one-on-one, and we were just told from whom we would buy product. And of course, in the early days, it was Quaker City Produce, and a little guy named Shorty, as I remember, but I won't quote that. And G&G didn't, as I remember, didn't really come into the picture until Reuben's came along. And
but how did you get the great meat, the great vegetables, the great quality product?
We had standards. There were specifications on every product, and you knew what those were, and that's what was delivered. And if it wasn't delivered, you sent it back, or you called up and you raised Cain. Poultry, we bought poultry for years from Arana Poultry. Golden State was the milk company. Those companies don't even exist anymore.
Well, they were successful enough to be bought out or merged, or
absolutely
something else happened to him because of the fact that he was buying all of his product. Egel Sonnenschein was at the event, as you might know, and he said that without John moving from Dorman Company over to having Egel supply the different parts of the company, or the fixtures, I suppose it would be called, he wouldn't have been able to do what he did.
Oh no, absolutely. Egel, worked for us. He actually left Dorman and came to work for us, and then ultimately ended up opening his own company.
Now, was the position that you took as Human Resource Director in 1957, was that a newly created?
No. In 57, I was just a dishwasher, a busboy, cook, and then trained for cook. Then I went into the management training program. Actually became a relief manager at snack shops number 4, 5, and 6 in January of 1959. So that's 50 years ago, this last January, that I've been working with people. Actually went into corporate on April the 11th of 1970 and was there until January 1979.
Whose position did you take?
I didn't. I went in and I actually took over the training school, and at that time Grace was trying to, and we formed a personnel department, and so I was head of personnel and training, and then ultimately we brought in trainers, and Bill Burris came to work for the training school. Bill Burris had been the general manager many years before.
Now, what about all these people that were at the event? Were there how many shocks did you personally get as far as who showed up? Did you know everybody? Did you have to contact everybody? Did anybody show up that we weren't expecting?
No, I don't think anybody showed up that we hadn't talked to or weren't expecting. But there were surprises in that some people towards the end came out of the woodwork because there were people that we had not talked with in 30, 35, 40 years. For example, Snack Shop number 4, back from the mid-60s, early 60s. There were 15 or 20 of us that had worked there back in those years. Those were fond memories.
Well,
And many that had called and said, "I'd love to be there, but I can't."
I was going to say it was a supreme honor to be invited. It was an even greater honor to attend. It was a very wonderful, warm and cozy experience for all of us. I think what I found interesting was there were people were just circling around people they hadn't seen in so many years that they'd worked with before. So there was such a tremendous camaraderie and feeling of esprit de corps, of anything. And that's the other thing I was going to ask is, was John McIntosh ever in the service?
Oh yes. But Audrey also was in the Marines. She was a captain. John was just
A grunt.
Well, I wouldn't call him that. But I remember Clay Whitaker when he was the general manager. Clay had been in the service, and Clay said, "You always treat your non-coms as equals because someday when the war is over, we're all going to be working for them."
That's pretty neat. So they were both a couple of Marines.
They were.
It's a fabulous story, and now I got to bring in some things that everybody knows that no one wants to talk about, but what you have to kind of deal with in an honorable sense, and that is when after the purchase of W.R. Grace after they purchased, John stayed around for what, 5 years or 10?
Oh no, 10 years.
He had a 10-year contract with these people.
I can't answer whether it was a contract, but he was there for 10 years.
All right.
But John really wanted to do other things.
Right. So my question to you though is then when did he leave Far West working there on a daily basis?
It was approximately June of 1979.
And why did so many people leave in 1980? By 1980, there were so many people that had left
well,
the company.
In 1980, it became the Grace Restaurant Company.
Yes.
And I can only guess or presuppose there were so many other companies beginning to develop and emerge on the scene.
Right.
And all of these people were recruited away.
Now, final question about the Macintosh people here. Now, one of the things important. We never knew or ever heard that John had separated from Audrey. Do you know when that was?
I do not.
And do you know when John married Kathy?
I do not. No.
Okay. So, but they were married for some 20 years, right? We know that.
I believe so. I believe so. Yes.
All right. Now,
that's at a time when I was out of the state.
Right. Okay. And now, this generation of people that were so influenced by John and Audrey McIntosh. I mean, it was fantastic. But they had such a big family too, didn't they? They both had the McIntyres and the McIntoshes both had pretty big families, didn't they?
Well, John and Audrey had 3 boys. John, Pat, and Scott were all there.
Right.
Scott, of course, was the oldest, and then John, and then Pat. And both spoke at the reunion.
A very touching memorial too from John.
And then, let's see, all of Bill's kids were there except Molly, of course, who passed away several years ago. But her husband, Rick Gaskins, was there, and Steve and Ross, of course, and Chloe. No, it was exciting.
Well, everybody will ask that final question. When's the next one?
Well, I hate to admit it, but we're working on it.
Well, that's great. Listen, we'll look forward to getting an invitation, that's for sure. Anyway, we want to thank Paul Prentice. We want to thank all the people that were on our interviews today. And we want to thank everybody that came to the memorial event for John and Audrey McIntosh. It was a fabulous event, lots of fun, and we couldn't look forward to more fun the next time. And thanks so much.
Thank you.